Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
And here he is, the corona-free Joe Martek.
You're still alive?
No, I have the six-pack in the car, you know, but I don't have any limes, so it's, what can I tell you?
How about salt?
Salt.
You got salt?
Do you have any salt here?
I doubt it.
I bet you do. Wait a minute, go talk to your bride. I'm sure.
No, I don't. I know she wouldn't have any.
No, she doesn't use salt?
No, never.
You know, you got in Florida we sweat. You got to have salt in your system, otherwise you can die.
Yeah.
I guess you don't die too much when you're in air conditioning all the time, right?
Well, that's probably true. Yeah. Our attorney's laughing here.
340-1590, 340-1590. Today,
he's trying to get us all to redo our wills before Corona hits us.
Well, let me just tell you something. You know, listen, he personally, how much money do you have? We want to get you probated so he can make a buck this year. Greg Fasula, attorney, Joe Martek, financial advisor, started doing these radio shows back in 2004, along with Dan Warren, independent insurance agent. The concept is the same then as it is today. We're here to answer questions that people might have with our different areas of expertise. But then we also added Ms. Victoria Lloyd, RE/MAX of Stewart, hardest working realtor, no maid demand, and Mr. Mike Polish, mortgage broker, because there's always been misconceptions about real estate, contract law, and mortgages. Big misconceptions.
And we saw Victoria about 10 years ago, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of the group is to help people and answer questions. But now I started to tell Greg, as when he sat down, that I've got a client situation, and I've never had to advise or try to help somebody with this situation. And I've talked to a couple of my peer group, other professionals, about how to proceed. Mm-hmm. So Dad dies. Dad leaves about $1 million. And you might remember I actually brought this fellow to your office, and you said you can't help him because the other attorney already had started a probate process that was not worth starting.
Right.
Well, what happened is, before Dad died, Mom died, and they had two different trusts. Mom had a trust.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Dad had a trust. Now, this is not a bad thing. This is not abnormal.
Years
ago, when they were thinking estate tax, they would split assets. Or the reason for doing a separate trust is that you had kids from different marriages. So and you wanted to keep assets going down your line and the other spouse.
That does make sense.
So you know, it's not unusual.
Well, back then there was an exclusion ratio of about $675,000 that you died, you pass that on, and there's no estate tax on $675,000. Well, let's say you had $1 million estate. Well, all of a sudden you die, $400,000 or three and a quarter was subject to a 50% tax. So now we divvy the estate up and put half in Mom's name, half in Dad's name. Now we got $500,000 in each, and we can pass it with no estate tax. So they used to call them A-B. A was Dad, B was Mom, or vice versa. Okay, so they had these trusts. So by and by, Mom dies. Mm-hmm. They never closed her trust.
So closing meaning what? That she had assets in her trust and they were never distributed out.
Correct. They kept it in the trust. Now, what happens is, Greg, you have a trust, let's just say you did, and while you're alive, it's called a living trust because you can change your mind and move things around, and it uses your Social Security number.
Okay, yeah.
Now, you die, and the trust has assets in it. No longer are you around with your Social, so it gets a new number, which is called a tax ID number, which is the same digits as a Social Security number. It's just called a tax ID number now.
Doesn't that automatically go to your wife, though?
No. What if you don't have a wife?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
now,
that makes sense.
And it doesn't necessarily go to your wife if the trust stands by itself. It has to say in the trust what happens to it.
Yeah, but why wasn't her trust closed out?
Okay, Greg. Mm-hmm. Now there comes the $64,000 question. Mm-hmm. So now 10 more years goes by, or 15.
Oh, my gosh.
Mom's trust is still in effect, and
there's still assets in this trust.
Still assets in the trust. So then Dad dies. Now both of them are dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a $40,000 tax liability on Mom's trust.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what happens, Greg. You die today. your assets go to whoever you have named, and there is no estate tax as long as you leave less than 10 million or 12 million, whatever the number is now. It's up there, right, Greg?
Yeah, it's around 11, 12 million.
11, 12 million.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, 675 was a much lower number, so they did that to protect it. But now you die, you distribute $10 million to your kids or whoever. They don't pay any estate tax. But guess what happened? Mom's estate stepped up to the day of her death, and they never transferred the assets to Dad.
Right.
Never transferred them to Dad. So from that point on, that had to do a tax return, and if it grew by X, now she is dead, and nobody's paid the taxes.
Obviously didn't know Greg Fasula.
Well, you know, Greg, so...
I don't know why that happened. Why wouldn't they distribute assets out of the trust?
You know what happens with attorneys? That word "why" comes up, otherwise you wouldn't have a job.
Well, true.
Because people make mistakes, or they're not given proper advice. Now, here comes the magic word.
That's very unusual because most of the time beneficiaries are in quite a hurry to get
But you see, there was 3 children, and Dad and Mom. Mom dies. The kids automatically assume that Dad just took over everything. Right? So the beneficiaries don't even know they are beneficiaries because Dad didn't tell them what's in the trust.
Yeah, but their attorney should have pointed that out to the father.
But there need not have been an attorney.
Yeah, I mean, with a trust, you know,
you don't need an attorney.
The attorney wouldn't even know.
Wait a minute,
the attorney might have did the trust, but how would the trust know that this person?
How would the attorney that did the trust know she's even dead?
Right. I mean,
you see what it has.
I don't know when all my clients die. I mean, how would you know?
How would you know if you don't see it in the newspaper?
Wow.
Well,
okay.
So you have a trust, let's say, and you die, and you have what's called a successor trustee. Okay, so it would be Carol normally because your wife, she still likes you, you know, and she may think you have a buck or two.
Well,
so
I think she does.
Maybe, hopefully. Anyway,
I'm styling though in case this is
I
my
noticed
last
you got
day,
that
you
yellow
know?
style. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's, you know.
And in case it's your last day, you want to look good when you go.
Now, if Rick Hazley comes through the
absolutely.
front door, I'm really
Yeah, right.
Hazley will be impressed.
Anyway, hey, speaking of your bride, she's sneaking in the door here. Anyway, what I was trying to go with, Greg, is when I met with the broker of record at the time.
All right, time out. You got to stop.
You got a question here?
This is
You have a caller from Annapolis, Maryland, listening.
No way.
How about
on
we got headsets?
WPSL.com. That you do,
From
Greg.
the Naval Academy.
Greg, you're on.
Hey, Greg, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hi, I listen to you fellows on through the internet all the time. It's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Show. I look forward to it every Wednesday. My question is about trust. I have it's interesting they call it a trust when it's hard to trust anyone.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good point.
My question is this. How do I structure a trust, and where can I get advice for this? Because my partner, Roger, we're trying to put something together, and we don't know if there's any type of, let's say, wall where we can't create our own trust because we're getting married, but we're not married yet.
Makes no difference.
No, it shouldn't make any difference. Shouldn't make any difference. How the trust would work, right, is you take what assets you own and you transfer it. First, you develop the trust, the document, and you take your assets and you transfer those assets into the trust. That's called funding the trust.
Whether you're married or not makes no difference.
So yeah, so you're concerned whether the marital relationship would make a difference?
Yes, that's why I'm calling. I don't know who else to ask.
Yeah, no problem. I just don't see how it would make a difference. So first of all, I don't know Maryland law, and I don't know if there's anything as far as any type of any rights that a spouse might have to your assets in Maryland. But I'm assuming that your partner is going to be your main beneficiary, correct?
Yes, Roger will be.
Okay, so that should be no problem. You can establish a trust.
See, Greg, there's two Gregs here, Greg Fasula and Greg, you're on the radio. If Greg Fasula and Joe Martek started a trust today, right? It would be a joint trust, and it would say Greg and Joe's trust. Let's just say that. And we open a bank account, and that bank account's in the trust, and we both can sign on it.
Correct.
I die, the trust is still valid. You're in charge of it because we are the controlling people in the trust, right? So it makes no difference who it is, whether it's a husband.
So Greg, you're wondering if you can do a joint trust between the both of you?
Yeah, well, yes, I'm the main breadwinner of the couple, so yes.
Okay, but do you own assets together right now?
We do, and that's where it gets a little hairy.
Yeah. So it does get a little hairy, but it depends on whether you want to do like a joint trust. And usually, if you own assets together and you've owned assets together for quite a while, that might be the best route to go, a joint trust.
If you both want to own these things together, you're partners now, or you're married, or you're a husband and wife, or you're married under whatever the law might be, or you're not married, whatever assets you put into the trust, you both own as the donors into it, and it says in the trust what happens to these when one of you dies.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So there's a lot. There's a lot to consider. I don't know if you're considering, if you're going to get married, you're going to do prenup and all that, but that all plays a part in it too.
You need to find an attorney up there in Maryland that does trusts, and I mean they're a dime a. Excuse me, Greg. That's terrible to say they're a dime a dozen, but there's lots of them.
You are terrible.
I know.
You really are.
They're a dime a dozen, but they're not all that great.
There you go.
Believe me.
Yeah, the ones that charge.
I've seen other attorneys work.
Ones that charge 25 cents are much better than the dime guys, right?
If they advertise,
not necessarily.
If they advertise 20 times a day on television, run away.
You might want to reconsider.
That's the scary piece. Well, hey, thank you. I love listening to your show, and I listen to annuities and
great.
Everything you talk about, I find of value. Thank you also very much.
Thank you
Greg,
for calling.
Thanks for calling. 340-1590, 340-1590.
Annapolis, Maryland. All right,
the
welcome
Naval
aboard.
Academy, right?
Huh?
Speaking of another attorney, our retired prosecuting attorney guest member from great state of Wisconsin just came in a little late.
Typical.
No, you're usually early.
I know.
But anyway, he's a little late, but Alan Love. I started to talk about a subject. Were you listening to us on the radio at all before you came in?
I was probably walking in.
Okay. Here comes the scenario.
Where did we
got,
leave off?
Got Greg here and you,
Okay.
two attorneys. Client of mine, father dies. Prior to father dying, mom died. They had two trusts, mom's trust, dad's trust. Mom died 10, 15 years ago. Her trust was kept open with assets in it for the whole 10 or 15 years. Got it?
Yeah.
It was never transferred to dad. It was never transferred to anybody. So finally, dad dies. So now they've got two trusts with beneficiaries named, and mom's needs to be liquidated because it was never transferred to dad. Well, a little minor thing came up called $40,000 in taxes. Because if they'd have transferred the assets when mom died to dad, and he died, there'd been no, the step up would have covered it. They would have had no tax, right?
Right.
So now I met with.
So wouldn't that capital gain now be taxable to her estate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means the kids, meaning the three beneficiaries, owe $40,000 in taxes in order to collect the share of mom's estate. Okay. So now I go and meet with this brother who I brought to your office with the broker, and I said, why did that happen? And he said, we don't know. So now I said to the brother, I said, look, this is $40,000 that you shouldn't have had to pay. If it was me, I would be upset, and I would go and file a complaint with everybody that breathes that should have handled this.
Well, that's the father. You're going to
But what if nobody advised the father? What if nobody advised the father to do this?
Well, did he seek advice?
Well, how do you know he's dead?
That's my point.
I mean, it's hard to ask
That's my
them now.
point. So we don't know.
Well,
I would call the psychic hotline
That's
myself.
what I've talked to a couple people. Now, Greg, here's what would happen. If I'm a financial advisor or a CPA doing the taxes, I would advise this person to transfer these assets upon the death of mom to the survivor's trust, right? Now, if you didn't do it, you know what I would do? I would have you sign a document that said I advised you to do such a thing. Dan and I talked about that. I talked about that to another buddy, my buddy who's 40 years in the business. And, you know, people can sue everybody.
Yeah.
But if you have documentation to cover your rear end, if you did the right thing.
But before those assets are transferred out to the beneficiaries, the taxes have to be paid.
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
They should be paid.
They should be paid. Quote,
Absolutely.
should is not doesn't mean have to.
Well,
Isn't there a signature
that's up
of
to
the
them.
person who wrote the trust on there?
Yeah, but they have no liability to the one that wrote the trust.
no, Greg. Like I say, why would they? They don't know that
They
this
don't- they
person
don't know the person
passed
died.
away. They don't know that it was held in the trust for 10 years. How would they know?
The person that I see that has the liability, this is Joe Martek speaking, I'm not an attorney, the person or persons that have the liability would be, one, the attorney that might have handled the estate when mom died, one, that might have, but there may not have been one, because if a trust, you don't need to have an attorney, everything just rolls automatically, it just keeps on going. Number two would have been the CPA, whoever's writing, or the tax advisor, whoever's doing the taxes. And number three would have been a guy like me, a financial advisor, who is handling dad and mom's money, should have said, hey, you need to just transfer this into your trust.
You would think somewhere along the line someone would have said, there's this money here, we want to get it to the beneficiaries. It's just very strange.
Simple, right?
Yeah,
But
but it's strange that it went that long sitting in her trust.
Well, you know why it's strange? Because somebody screwed up. Or a number of
Well,
people.
the father screwed up because...
But what if he was not advised? He didn't know. No, ignorance, come on. Listen, ignorance of the law happens every day.
There's another thought here that we've talked about. Attorneys or CPAs or tax advisors, they handle the client, they get the client's money, and then 10 years later when something comes up, they're not around. They already got paid. And so, that's a problem. That's why it's necessary to deal with reputable people.
But now I'm talking this case specific.
Yeah, I understand that.
See, because Joe Martek comes unglued with situations like this. I'll go to Greg and I get people, I take them to Greg and I say, hey, these people are taking advantage of, what can we do? Yeah, and that's what we do, Greg. We do it constantly.
Is it possible to go to the IRS and say, look, somebody made a mistake?
IRS could care less.
They could care less.
They think about, all they care about is collecting their money. They don't care.
right.
They're not going to offer you advice on how not to.
Yeah, but
They're gonna want their money.
I would think somebody at the IRS would look at this and say, well, somebody screwed up. And
Well, somebody
at
did
least
screw
cut
up,
him a
but guess
deal
what?
or
But the
something.
Internal Revenue says we still
Yeah,
want our money.
We're owed this. And
We
that's
don't.
what
We
it's-
don't care.
That's yeah.
Everybody's
we're not
dead,
gonna
so all we want is our money. Pay us. It's not my fault that the attorney, the CPA, the financial advisor, whoever did not do their, or dad did not do their job. So what I'm trying to say,
I put the blame on Dad because he was the one. He's the beneficiary.
What
He's
if Dad was
probably the
never
successor
advised?
trustee. Well, as successor trustee, you should get advice. His wife dies. His wife has assets in a trust. Wouldn't you think at that point you'd go out and talk
you know
to an
why you're
attorney
saying
or
this?
somebody?
Because you know the law. But if he didn't know, Mom's trust is sitting all by itself, same as it always has been. Now it's got a new tax ID number, right? Now what if he never filed taxes on it? This makes it even
That's
more
a
exciting.
problem also, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is I'm talking to the beneficiary, the one that was in charge, and I'm saying, hey, the first person I think you need, this is Joe Martek's opinion now. The first person you need to go to is find out who did the taxes for Mom and Dad for the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, you would think it'd come up at that point, right, when it's time to do taxes.
Yeah, you'd think it would, right? So let's just say this tax person Never said, oh, by the way, is Mom dead? Well, wait a minute, Mom is dead because we have a new tax ID number, right? Now, what if they never did a new tax ID number?
Right. They're going to have to do one.
And
They're going to have to do one to pay taxes.
What if they did not have a CPA or a tax preparer, but did it all on the web?
And all these things are possible. All these things are possible.
Yeah, so that's the problem with people doing their own taxes,
However,
their own
I know for a fact,
legal forms.
they did have a tax preparer. Now, probably that tax preparer has died because this dad was 95 when he died, so we don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm going to talk to brother, and he's in Montana, and say, hey, listen, first thing is find out who did the taxes for your mom and dad for the last 10 or 15 years. Which firm. Then I'm going to suggest this, say with me, contact them and say, why didn't you?
Yeah, you know she died. You know she has assets in it. Well, I would assume that they'd know that.
Of course. Why didn't you tell them? Oh, I did. Well, did you write down that you told them and when? Is there something signed that covers your butt? No. Well, we're going to sue your firm because you have errors and omissions insurance that could cover that 40 grand. Is that fair?
It's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, not only the CPA, but I said this to the brokerage, big firm. I said, why didn't? And they didn't answer me. Now, it could have changed brokers from over the years, you know, because the dad was up in Michigan, now he's in Florida, so he could have changed brokers, firm, you know, same firm, but changed agents, whatever, and nobody paid attention. And Dad didn't ask the question. Anyway, 340-1593.
It's a mess.
Yeah, but hey, guess what? That's why we have attorneys, because they get paid to sort out messes.
Yes, we do.
340-1590. Hey, Mike, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Hey, everybody. You know, speaking of wives, my brother's wife told him she'd rather listen to him snoring than have to hear what's on television at night these evenings.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
More people are doing hand wringing than hand washing.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah.
I like that. In fact, Carol came in and wiped down each one of the microphones, but she didn't wipe my hand because she didn't want to touch my hand.
Yeah, something.
Probably a good idea.
Well, you got a bunch of ex-wives that say the same thing.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. I won't get the virus. None of you all will, and no one we know will. And you can hold me to that.
You know, Mike. Let me. I am. Yeah. Well, I hate to tell you, we have a person here who got the flu, who had the flu shot. But
yes,
got
that's
the flu
true.
anyway.
That's very true. Guilty as charged.
Wait a minute. You know how Dr. Rob just a minute ago before us came on and said contact the CDC? Well, I check the CDC regularly because I'm as jaded as the rest of them. And I got it, Mike. Stay with me on this one, but listen to these statistics. 36 to 51 million illnesses since October of last year in the flu. 17 to 24 million medical visits because of the flu since October 1st of last year. Wait a minute. 370,000 to 670,000 were hospitalized since October of last year. And here comes the CDC. Between 22,000 and 55,000, somewhere between those two numbers, have died from the flu since last October 1st.
All pertinent facts. I believe that the way China has done the communist leadership so irresponsibly handling what happened and the aftermath and the terrible situation they unleashed on the world, China needs to pay a lasting, severe price. I'm hoping our president will figure out some way to make them pay for what they've done to the world.
Did you hear what he said? Cut our debt in half?
Well, at least I'm glad he's come around to the fact that it's no longer a Democrat hoax. It's no longer a Democrat. It's no longer the liberal media and the deep state.
Well, the liberal media has certainly made this thing virulent. Boy, wouldn't that word work now?
Well, those statistics are true about the flu, but it's 20 times more lethal than the flu. So they have to flatten that curve so our hospitals don't get overwhelmed.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to point out on the political front, every campaign, Trump's family, Clinton family, all family members that could help the campaign did so. And Hunter Biden, nobody in his family except his wife is involved. I'd like to know why that is. And, of course, we can't count on the press to ask those questions. Where is Hunter? Why isn't he helping the old man? He needs help.
What do you think, Greg? Where's the kid?
I don't know why that's really relevant.
But
Who
what
cares?
he's saying,
Who cares?
he's just using history that everybody, when everybody's running, their families get involved. Like Clinton's
Yeah.
family got involved. Everybody's family gets involved in the campaign.
Well, did Clinton, remember he had that one brother that was kind
he
of...
kind of
Remember
hid
that
the Jimmy, was it?
Oh, what was that?
Billy.
Billy.
Billy Beer.
Billy Beer. In fact, they started a beer called Billy Beer, remember?
Yeah, oh, I remember that.
Do you all have any idea how the money situation will work out? They're talking about a cash send-out to stimulate everyone. Would that be only for working people?
Yeah, I don't think they've come out with details on that. I would imagine it's not just for working people. It shouldn't be just for working people.
You know what I heard, Mike? I heard that it qualifies for everybody except retirees in Fort Pierce.
Well, that would figure. There you go.
Well, hey, it's going to be. I talked to Carol and Greg. They own the radio station, and I says, Carol, I hear that the government's going to give every radio station owner a check for $20,000. And Greg says, yeah, boy, that'll be the day.
Mike, for that last comment that Joe made about where you live, I would slap him for you, except I'm practicing social distancing, so I can't do it at least until April.
At least until April, right? Once flu season is over with, then you can hit me, right?
That's right.
Just carry a long stick.
Carry along. Hey, Mike, listen, thank you, my man, for listening and calling in.
Yes. Have a good day, you all.
Thank you,
You
thank
too.
you. 340-1590.
You know what was interesting, though,
Eh.
is how our governor here
Yeah.
got attacked in the media. I mean, left and right yesterday for holding an election. I mean, I'm sitting there going,
Yeah,
Isn't this
and it was basically for the Democrats.
well, yeah.
It's your
they're-
primary, but basically we know that Trump's going to run. So
Yeah,
you
but
know.
Weldon, man, he got.
Yeah.
I was shocked that he got 3% actually.
Yeah, and that-
but
I was too. I didn't even heard of him until yesterday. But anyway, that happens.
oh, I remember him.
340.
Governor,
I think
wasn't
he did the right
Senator?
thing.
I don't think he was a governor.
I think DeSantis did the right thing.
I do
Weldon?
too. I do
No,
too.
because you had so many people that voted by mail, that pre-voted.
Well, I agree with him. You know, canceling a primary, I don't understand. The whole political system is based on getting delegates put together. Now we have to wait to the convention if they cancel them and start doing it all over again, and let's infect everybody at the convention.
And how
don't
about
think they're
the
gonna have
state of
conventions.
Ohio?
Yeah.
You know, canceling their election the day before. I mean,
right,
it's-
but here's
yeah,
what-
that's
now
or
when
the
the
night before, actually.
when is
Yeah,
the
the
actual
night before.
Democratic convention? What month?
August.
Okay, by then the flu's over with, Greg. You know, this is
we'll
a
see.
seasonal flu. Well, they're
We'll
saying the
see.
same thing.
Well,
Every-
hopefully.
even the CDC, everybody's coming up. It's
Yeah.
a seasonal flu.
hopefully.
So it should be over with.
Yeah.
340.
But I don't think it'll ever get to the convention. I think, everybody knows it's Biden, and I think Bernie, they came out and said that Bernie's thinking about it now or considering.
He's about-
when they say that, it's over.
It is. I agree. He should be. You know, speaking of one of the original members who is trying to pretend that he's staying away from us because of the coronavirus, he's on the radio.
Social distance.
Social distancing. Dan, how much
really
distance do you
social
need?
distancing.
Hey, I'm as far away as I can get, boys.
What are you in Montana or something?
No. I'm just I'm out doing some stuff, trying to avoid as many people as I possibly can. You know, it's like, actually, Nancy's concerned about my past respiratory issues, so she wants me to hang away from everybody, and I'm trying to keep peace at the house and do
Yeah.
just that. So.
Well, that's probably a good
But,
idea, Dan. When you have
Absolutely. Hey, I've been
respiratory
listening,
problems in the
guys.
past, asthma and
I've
stuff
been
like
listening.
that.
It's been a good show, but here's one thing you guys need to keep in mind. When Trump started running for office, he gave the American people a very stern warning about the amount of stuff that we have outsourced to other countries that are important to us.
Big time.
And how he'd like to bring some of that manufacturing of certain products back to our country. I think this coronavirus brings that home to us very plainly, that we need to have products that we rely on to live and survive, the medications and things. They need to be made here in our country for our people.
You know, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that at this point right now.
Can't disagree with that, but it's such a world economy now. I think the toothpaste is out of the tube as far as that goes.
It's too late now. This is after the fact.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, I think that.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if you say, "Oh, it's too late," and it doesn't get done, then the lesson is learned for naught.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too late for now, but let's get on the stick and make it so in a year or two, so it doesn't happen again.
Hey, listen, they were saying that the generic drug industry is largely China, which.
Well, but did you hear what happened when Trump had the meeting the other day with the pharmaceutical companies? They're moving those 7 drugs back here.
There you go.
I mean, all of a sudden, you had that one meeting, and it's like, let's just get it done.
Get it done. Get it done.
Well, and you know what? And the same thing which should hold true if we have certain types of military devices that, one little widget is made in China or whatever. We should have certain things in our country. 100% of it should be made and assembled in our country, and I believe that.
I'm willing to bet these ventilators that they're talking about is mostly made overseas.
Yeah, I bet you.
Yeah, and they're going to use them for now, but we need to get ahead of the curve and make it for ourselves in the future.
Good point, Dan. Yeah. Good point. Listen,
all right,
a little too late.
I'm happy. I'm happy for you that you do everything Nancy tells you to do, and this time it actually makes sense.
That's right. Hey, happy wife, happy life.
There you
That's
go.
Right, Dan.
Adios, my man. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
NBC Nightly News had a great story on this small, it's not a startup, ventilator company in Silicon Valley.
Oh, really?
And the fact that they're going nuts. They're now going to start 24-hour.
Right.
Everything's made here in America.
Right.
And it's like, this is great. And,
right. The government should help them, get them more workers, get them more materials.
Well, you know what's an interesting thing? It's like feast and famine. One person's junk is another person's treasure. Well, this is what happens. This situation is creating new opportunities for certain people, in the medical industry especially.
Well, it's also changing our society. I happened to see the head of the CDC during the Obama administration on MSNBC yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that Americans will look at life differently even after the virus, even after the economy recovers. And an example that he used is that most families are going to go out and they're going to have a few boxes of surgical masks put in the pantry, or and they're going to be not maybe spending as much money on frivolous things.
Mm-hmm. I had a client of mine that figured out what to do. He actually is in Montana. He went out and bought 2 cases of vodka.
and what's interesting is I saw on the news.
That's a good germ killer.
I saw on the news the other night they were interviewing a couple of survivalists, and their response was, "We warned you."
Yeah.
And
well, there's always been the conspiracy theories that this stuff could be shipped over to us hidden, right? And we're going to wipe us all out. Well, you don't
by
know.
terrorists.
You don't know. You don't know.
Obama had this pandemic response team developed in place when Trump took over.
Yeah.
Guess what he did? What
doubled
they did? Oh, right.
340-15.
Their history.
Well, here comes this.
Let's talk about home values.
Why?
There was a thing on Facebook. It's hysterical. It was a house that had been TP'd, toilet papered, and they said the house on Zillow was just valued at $12.5 million.
What?
Because of the toilet paper.
Because of the toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
They had a
very funny. Very funny.
I saw a cartoon, not a cartoon,
it's
but
crazy.
an email where it shows a car pulling up to a drug dealer, and he's got his backpack on. He's looking like this, and the guy's holding out all this cash, and he slowly opens it up and hands out 1 roll of toilet paper.
I read an article why Americans are so obsessed with this hoarding this toilet paper. It's a cultural thing. It's
cultural.
You know, of course.
Why?
I don't know, but in Italy, you know what they hoarded? Pasta.
Well, yeah.
In
Europe,
listen, they're not. You know, in Europe they have bidets, and
I was told that they're selling more corn on the cob than ever.
That's what they used to do.
Carol worked with one of the all-time great producers at NBC Nightly News, and he posted. He's Hispanic, and he posted one of the funny shots of a toilet paper roll, not with the toilet paper, but empty. And he had tortillas hanging over the tortillas. It was like,
hey,
man.
They work. See, one of the problems is everybody's saying toilet paper, toilet paper, toilet paper. So everybody's thinking, I got to get more, I got to get more, and you really don't.
How many rolls did you buy?
I don't have that enough, but I'm telling you because.
We haven't been able to find them in public.
You can't, and even if
we actually, it's kind of funny. Look, I said, how many rolls of toilet paper we actually have in the house? Well, we have about 6. I thought, well, okay, fine. That should last for a couple weeks.
Even if you're quarantined, you're looking at 2 weeks at home, right?
Right.
So why are people stocking up like it's Armageddon?
Panic. It's got nothing to do with reality. It's perception, right? It's all perception. Hey, speaking of perception, I've had. Can you imagine that I've had a few calls from people worried about their investments? Can you imagine?
No, I'm shocked.
Yeah, just a few. But here was one that I had yesterday that was very specific. And young lady, I got to tell you the story on this, and I'm going to give you the numbers. My compliance people say I'm supposed to say you're supposed to know the claims paying ability of this insurance company before you ever do business with one. So I'm going to start. Anyway, this is a young lady that back in January of 2016 had a retirement account that she rolled over into an IRA.
Okay.
Now, she's a young woman. She's going to work for another 20 years, so she wasn't concerned about taking money out now. What she wanted to do was have money for retirement, but she was scared that the market would not always perform. So how do I protect it? So she put in $65,380 when she started. Today, it's worth $62,033, so it's worth a little less than she started with.
Just $3,000, though.
But she has withdrawn to date $26,136.
Wow.
So it's worth more, almost more. Well, if she hadn't withdrawn the money, it would have been worth more. Now, here comes 2 other things that are important. Because this is what's called a variable annuity, insurance. Have you ever noticed that people don't like insurance until they need it? You ever watch that? I mean, who wants house insurance, car insurance, health insurance until you need it, right? Then all of a sudden, thankfully you have it. Her death benefit today is $82,471. So she has children. If she cashed it in, she only gets $58,000 because there's still penalties.
Right.
But if she dies, her kids get $82,000. She also can start taking an income for life based at $82,000, not at the market value today, because it's an insurance contract. Mm-hmm. This is called a variable annuity. Why is it good? Well, when I look at people with short-term money, meaning 5 years or less, we don't talk about this. This is designed to protect you in case things go wrong when you're not so young. Now, you know and all know, you and I, well, all 3 of us except for Greg, a couple of us are in triple overtime. You're in double overtime, Greg.
No, I'm quadruple.
So the whole concept, we could die any minute, but we also are concerned about not dying. Are we protected with income for life, 1? 2, we have beneficiaries. Like right now, I'm in spite of the fact I pick on you, you die right today, you want to make sure Carol's taken care of because, that's just, you've got a good marriage and that's just the way it works. So what this contract does, it provides protection for you in case you don't die, and it provides protection for your family in case you do die, quote, on the wrong day. I get a joke out of this, but it's not funny today because the market has tanked, gone down 20, 30, 40, in some cases 50%.
Should I question the fact that Carol's beneficiary
is not you? Yes, I'd question
it's the dog who passed away about 12 years ago.
Well, you know what? I think she might have named a new dog by now. When you bring that subject up, it's funny as you say that. We have had numerous occasions over the years where husband and wife were beneficiaries, but he has a new wife now for 20 years, and he forgot to take his old wife off.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I mean, tell you
Yeah,
what,
it happens.
And new wife is really upset. Old wife says, he wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
So now, wait a minute. What happens?
It goes
in
to
that
the
case?
old wife, whoever's
Sure.
written down. Nobody else.
Oh, man.
And there's
Yeah.
there's no question about it. Period.
It's
I mean, that's
That's-
you can
that's
sue
the-
till you're blue in the face.
That's
It's a
the difference
waste.
between insurance and, say, a will. If he would have left the old wife in the will and they got a divorce, well, it'd be a different story. She wouldn't be able to inherit because of that divorce. But insurance is a different.
Insurance
story.
is different. It's named
or
beneficiary,
an
including
account of any
retirement
type.
accounts. Including
Yeah.
retirement accounts. So
Yeah.
if you have a 401k at work, 403b, any kind of retirement account has usually named beneficiaries. So you leave your employer, and you leave that account there for 20 years, and you forget who your beneficiaries are. And you know, Bulldog and Mary
Right.
Beth.
Greg, what happens if you, on your retirement account, like an IRA, you just put on there, it goes to my estate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the only thing there is, I think there's tax consequences
Big time.
as far as
Big time.
if your beneficiaries are your kids, they could roll that over into their own IRA.
What happens is, when it goes to the estate, now we can have probate, we can have anything, right?
Yeah, right at that moment, it's going to be taxable if it was just estate.
It's subject now.
Yeah.
Here
But if
comes-
it's in a trust, it wouldn't go to probate.
well, the answer is
Well, the
you don't-
estate is probate. Right?
you can in your trust say my estate is the beneficiary. Well, guess what? The trust that was useless, but you can do that. Literally, you die today, and you name a beneficiary on any retirement account, any insurance, any annuity contract, nothing through probate. Period. But if you don't name, if all you put down is either no beneficiaries or my estate, it's going to be subject to the courts. There's no way you can get away with it.
That's what the estate is.
That's what
the
the estate is,
is a probate.
Now, maybe, and I've never had this happen, let's just say there's two kids and that's all there is, and they're going to inherit it because that is who gets it. Maybe the Infernal Revenue would let them roll it into an IRA without paying tax. But it would still take a legal
They'd have to-
move. This is not going to happen without some aggravation.
And
3,
they'd
4,
have to start paying also, if the decedent was already taking payment.
You have to. What happens is, let's say you die and you're 70 years old and you're taking distributions from your IRA, or 72 now. You die and you leave that money to your children. They have to start taking a distribution every year, but it's going to be based on their age. So let's say you have to take out 6 or 7% out of your account because you're old. They may have to take 1 or 2% per year.
I
because
got you.
they're
Okay.
Based on their
Interesting.
age. So.
Joe, let's get back to variable annuities for a couple of minutes. The market has dropped about 25% in like 4 weeks. Just amazing drop. But if you're in a variable annuity and you've been in it for a while, you're fully protected. You're getting your income, and the income probably stepped up over the last few years because of the market performance, correct?
What happens is different contracts have different options. When he's saying steps up, reason I talked about this young lady, she started with 65, took out 26,000, but her step up is 82,000. So what happens is, on anniversaries, if the market goes up, it locks these numbers in for 2 reasons. One, for death benefit, and a guaranteed income for life is going to be based on a high number. So why do I do that? Well, because we don't know when we're going to die, and we don't know what the market's going to do. Back again, short-term money, these are a mistake because it doesn't work. But long-term money, retirement money, these things work phenomenally well to protect you and your heirs, just in case things don't go according to plan.
Okay, dumb question. Is this a time to buy one of those?
What's the difference about the time? It makes no difference. It makes absolutely no difference.
Okay.
But the old rule of life is buy low, sell high.
Right.
Well, let's assume this lady got in back in 16, and we were in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. Well, those have done 10, 15, 20, last year 30%. but doesn't every year. And this year it's given it all back, plus most of last year. But hers had lock-ins every January. Well, guess what? Market was pretty high in January before this corona. So it locked in her high water mark.
For a year.
Forever. It can never
Forever.
go down for
Wow.
that number. Can
Oh,
never go
wow.
down. Now, she dies, her kids get that high water mark until it goes up again each on an anniversary. And if she starts taking income, let's say she's 65, she's got $4,000 some odd dollars a year for the rest of her life that can never go down but can go up.
Wow.
Because
That's
it has
cool.
anniversary step-ups, right? Is that where you're going, Alan, with that?
Yes, yes.
So the whole concept, when I look at people today, Joe, what should I do? I say, well, short-term money, I put every dime I had in the last few days into the market because I think we're at or close to the bottom. Now, the old rule is, and if you listen to Warren Buffett, it's called when everybody's upset, it's time to buy. When everybody's happy, it's time to get out.
Did you hear what Mark Cuban's doing?
No, I didn't listen to him.
He's in a S&P Spider.
Okay.
He's buying a bunch of that.
Right.
He's buying tons of Twitter stock.
Okay.
And he's also buying a lot of Live Nation spot, which is the big concert venues, because he said once this thing's over,
Everybody's
going to be going to concerts.
Right.
You know, it's kind of funny when you said Spider. The Standard & Poor's 500 is the biggest index, well known. It's 500 of America's biggest companies. You can actually buy a number of different funds, whether they want to call them mutual fund or an ETF, that are Standard & Poor's 500 fund. So last year, it made about 30%. Year before, it went negative about 5 or 6. Year before was up 10 or 15. But it's averaged for 90 years, 9.8% per year.
Wow.
Average.
Wow.
Not quite 10.
Now you compound that through the rule of 72, and that means your money is doubling about every 7 years.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So the whole concept is you can be invested in the market. Yeah, you're going to pay an insurance company a portion of the money because nobody works for free. Or you can be invested just in an index fund, which pays, you know, very, very low in fees. You pay a commission, of course, when you get in. But the whole thing is this. If you had died last week and you'd have been in the S&P 500, your family would have been upset because now they're buying a Pinto rather than a Maserati. That Maserati dealer in Stewart.
They're going great guns.
So, you know, and I joke about that, but hey, listen, I guarantee you every family would rather have you die when the market's up unless you have insurance on it.
I think Carol was really surprised. We get the renewal form from the ad agency, and we looked at that going, oh, okay, that's a car dealer that's doing well.
Well, you know, and that's what happens. We joked about that. You know, if you sell Maseratis or you buy Maseratis, you're not too concerned about the economy.
Probably not.
You have a very unique. If you do a Bugatti, you're even less concerned, right, Greg?
Well, that's what Greg drives, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, all
I have
attorneys
it
drive
parked out
Bugattis,
front.
don't they? Yeah, but Greg's is a 1972. You know?
With 3 wheels.
With 3 wheels, right? Oh, that's the old
about
Saab.
it.
You remember that Saab?
I remember
Oh,
the Saab.
yeah.
The two-
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. Remember that one? I had a neighbor that had one. He woke everybody in the neighborhood up every day with that thing.
Oh, yeah.
340. Greg, you're dragging out memories that who cares about. 340-1590, 340-1590.
I think we need to laugh a little bit through all this mess.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, this too will pass, and I really believe April, May, June, this coronavirus thing will go away, a natural death, but they'll have a vaccine by next season, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
hopefully
flu
that's the
season will be
case.
over with.
And hopefully
It's
it does,
winding
and-
down technically now, according to the CDC, but we'll find out.
Yeah, that's a big hope. But the flu always comes back, and if there's no vaccine, it'll be back.
So you might be writing some letters to CPAs and other attorneys here from my buddy who's in Montana, who's got to pay that $40,000 in tax.
Oh,
See
my
if we can
gosh. See if we can.
see if we can get some of it through
Yeah.
errors and omissions insurance.
Right.
Because
Okay.
there's liability to somebody as far as I'm concerned. And if it is Dad, and Dad signed a document that says I don't care, this is what I'm
Right.
doing.
Right.
And literally, I would have done it. You would have done it. We wouldn't want it to have that responsibility
Right.
on us. So
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, so what happens if it is Dad?
nothing.
He's dead.
He's
Yeah.
dead. Well, no, but if it's
Yeah, you're not
Dad
gonna
and
sue
people
Dad.
have their butts covered, the kids don't. They have to pay the $40,000.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sure.
They're probably going to pay it anyway and then
Gonna
try
pay
to get
anyway,
it back.
Maybe try to get it back, but
Yeah.
they should pay it.
340-1590-34. Yeah, when you inherit $1 million and you're looking at $500,000 in your hand, the 40 didn't look very important. But now it's a year later, that 40's starting to look better.
Right.
You know, but 40 it looks really good to all of us sitting in this room. But
I'll take 40.
Very quickly, Joe, I just want to say that I had my physical on Monday. The doctor said that there are no confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Martin, St. Lucie, or Indian County. And so let's pray that that continues and everybody be safe.
Amen.
Absolutely.
We got, what, 30 seconds, Chief? Because, we got to teach Pastor Dave at CNO how to use this rather than the he's got
cards.
those cards down to a science. And he actually hit me in the head with them. 340-1590, 340-1590. Greg, thanks for coming in. Alan,
No problem.
thank you for staying alive. And until next week.